Good evening, my name is Garrett, and welcome to The Last Call. On tonight's verses, we have Storywood Tequila. This is the Reposado, aged exclusively in single malt Scotch whiskey casks for 7 months, coming in at a 40% ABV, at least 7-month age statement, versus Storywood Tequila. This is their Anejo, aged exclusively in single malt Scotch whiskey casks, coming in at a 40% ABV, 14-month age statement. Now, for full disclosure, both these bottles were sent over for review purposes for us to take a look at, so just keeping that transparency open. Now, I've had the pleasure of sitting down with both versions of Storywood Tequila, and I have to say they're amazing and very unique in the tequila world. We don't see tequila being an area that likes to adventure into unique casks, where Storywood is taking their history of the owner coming from Scotland, growing up there, moving to the United States, and all that kind of good stuff, and saying, why not? So again, we do know that both of these are obviously tequila, so they're made in Mexico, but they are aged exclusively in single malt Scotch casks that come from the Dufftown region in Scotland. So unfortunately, Storywood does not get to know where those casks come from, but they are guaranteed to be from the same distillery, same batch, all that kind of good stuff. And again, these are aged exclusively in Speyside Scotch barrels. There's no finishing here. They don't go into ex-bourbon and then moved over to here. So I'm really curious what the big difference of 7 months to 14 months will really bring across. So let's go ahead and get into things. We'll compare color, talk about notes, and then wrap up with taste and the market pricing section. So let's go ahead and get into things. And as always, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, hang around for a bit. If you're interested in the individual reviews for these, they will be linked up above and down below, so you can enjoy after this video, along with a link to the website so you can check them out for yourself, do a little bit of research. But I reached out to them a while back, and I was like, this sounds so interesting, being a big Scotch lover, as you can tell, and more recently getting into tequilas. I really wanted to sit down with these, and they were kind enough to send them over. Because I think that's such a unique idea. On top of that, they are bringing out some more. They're bringing out some cask strengths and a few interesting other casks coming down the road. So I'm really excited to see what they're going to do here. Looking at color, the Anejo is a little bit darker, but both are very pale. And they kind of come across like an Isla Scotch color. But the Anejo is a little bit darker, which is expected. So let's start off on notes of the Reposado. Oh, seeing right away, beautiful, beautiful blue agave notes going on here. Sweet, earthy, get a bit of vanilla, but you get that kind of damp earth note going on. A little bit of oak, but then you get this nice caramel, and almost gives me this reminiscent of grain. Like as a grain scotch, you get kind of those grain notes in there. And I love that agave now, how well rounded it is in there. It's not off-putting or sharp, nothing ABV heavy or metallic notes. And honestly, just is well executed because it really does showcase what that Speyside Scotch did to that tequila. But in my opinion, the tequila isn't lost in that process. You still get both sides of that coin. Let's hop over to the Anejo. And see here, things are a little more refined. The agave notes are definitely dialed back. If the notes of agave are off-putting to you or maybe a little too different for you, this one, it ages that out so well. But it brings out a little bit more of the honey sweetness. In my opinion, brings out even more grain to it. I've never had new make Scotch, but I would assume this would be on almost a similar playing field maybe. It just has this almost sweet grain of like a new make, but it's also got that little tinge of earthiness in there. Vanilla as well, you get a little bit of a sweet vanilla note. And the caramel you're getting is a little bit darker, a little bit more like homemade caramel. This is more like just a classic sweet caramel. Here it's made on the stove and a little bit of nuttiness going on. Again, it's amazing how well these casks do play together with the tequila. Here it reminds you a little bit more of a tequila, and here it reminds you more of a scotch. It just is interesting on what that 7 months really does to a tequila in a scotch barrel to me. I just love, ooh, what was that? Almost a little wisp of smokiness in there. Yeah, just a little bit of a wisp of smoke. Let's see if we can find it in the Reposado. Maybe, but it's more of that cooked agave note, which isn't bad. I do enjoy that on occasion. There are some that go a little too heavy into that, almost, I call it like a wet dog nose, and it goes very, very pungent. But here, you don't get any of that. All right, let's go for taste on the Reposado. Beautiful blue agave right up front. Goes into a bit of earthiness, a little bit of damp earth in there. But then you're kind of left with this bit of oak, and in my opinion, comes across a little smoky earthiness. You get the grain notes from that single malt scotch cask and a bit of oak, but then it just kind of keeps clawing its way back with a little bit of honey sweetness, but almost a maltiness to it. No ABV, nothing harsh, no metallic notes, just a well-rounded, bright, sweet agave. The oak notes are really present here, and again, for me, it brings out this beautiful maltiness. That's such a good sip. All right, let's head over to the Anejo. Here, you're getting a little bit darker earth, almost like you dug up a hole right after the rain. So you get this damp earthiness. The maltiness is coming through. The vanilla is not as sweet. It's a little more earthy to it. But the malty grain notes are playing really well here. Again, if you would blindfold me, I'd be like, that tastes like a super young scotch, because it just has almost a new make quality to it on the nose and on the taste. A little bit of that smoky element showing up in there as well. The dark caramel is really nice in there too. That big burst of agave right from the forefront, it shoots up to a peak, it drops down hard and gives you all these charry, like an almost like if they told me this was used in a double charred barrel or something. It's just bringing across these big hefty notes on that. But then it gets a little bit sweeter, comes up out of that dip, a little sweeter, a little bit more of the vanilla shows up, that malty characters here. It is honestly two completely different sips, and especially coming from a 7-month to 14 months, it's night and day different. This reminds you, again, more of a tequila, where this reminds you more of a scotch. It's really curious how that turned out on that. All right, so before we get to the market price section, let's talk about which one I think is the better sip. I'll be honest, both are great sips for different reasons, but I'm going to have to give it to the Reposado. I love how well that agave note comes across. It's not masked, but you still get the unique casks of that Speyside scotch in there. You get those characteristics, a little sweet, a little earthy, that oak cask is showing up in there well with that maltiness. Here, I love this sip though. How well it ages and how much more scotch notes are coming out in this version. It's phenomenal. Honestly, if you're a tequila lover and you're wanting to get in a scotch, I think this is a good stepping point. And if you're a scotch lover that wants to get into tequila, I think this is a good starting point. But for me personally, I just really love what that agave does to that scotch barrel in the Reposado. Alrighty, with that all in mind, let's talk about market price, because we all know market price is market price and it's always going to vary. So if you look at pricing on the Reposado, it tends to be about $50-ish here in the United States, whereas the Anejo tends to be about $80 to $85 on their website. So honestly, again, I think both of them are really good sips. A great Anejo is going to cost you money, and that extra process of having to source a specific cask is always going to reflect in that pricing. But again, honestly, I'm still going to give it to the Reposado. I think for that $50 asking point, it's a beautiful sip. It gives you the tequila, it gives you that little bit of the Speyside scotch. Here, it gives you more of that Speyside scotch with a little bit of the tequila. I don't think it's bad by all means yet again, but both are very unique and different people are going to be loving these for very different reasons. But again, I'm going to definitely have to give it to the Reposado. And again, if you're interested in anything Storywood Tequila is doing, a link to their website will be down in the description area below. Go show it some love. So yeah, there you have it, folks. Storywood Tequila, the Reposado, and Storywood Tequila, their Anejo, both aged exclusively in single malt Scotch whiskey casks. If you have questions about either bottle, go ahead and leave it down in the comment section below. I will do my best to answer it. And if you have any specific spirits I should put up against each other, also let me know down below. I love doing these A/B comparisons and sharing the results with you at home. And as always, may your last drink of the night be the best one.
You know, and I really like it might